I woke up in the early hours of Saturday only to miss phone calls of people wanting to update me that his car had been found abandoned. So the last 2 days have been extremely painful to us, particularly the family members. I have seen their pain, and we want to thank God that finally the Lord came through for us, and JJ is alive.
Right.
Yeah. So as to your question as to the state of JJ, of course, when we found him, we got a tip-off. Of course, there was a phone call that came from a gentleman that apparently JJ was dumped in Kafue along the river banks, and he managed to crawl to a nearby place, and there's a house in the farms, and the people there, he was able to then contact the family. Immediately, we then rushed into Kafue and took him. We found police had already gotten there, because we had already spoken to friends who were already in Kafue. And so when we got into Kafue, they had already gotten to the scene and picked JJ to the hospital at Kafue General Hospital. So all we did was to allow the medics to attend to him, to stabilize him, and then we decided to move him to Midland Hospital here in Lusaka.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you have to say about the state in which he's being kept, especially by the medical personnel? We did get to see just this morning you at a hospital, and there seemed to be some confusion going on there. Would you bring us to light of what exactly is transpiring and what the way forward seems to be like?
Well, strange things have happened today. I thought that the decision to go to a particular health facility should be an individual decision. I never thought that it has now become the state's decision for which facility you must go to. So the family had decided that we needed to go to a facility that we were comfortable with, and we thought we needed to go to Midland Hospital. And so we told the police officers we found in Kafue that we were going to go to Midlands, and that's how we proceeded. Of course, they escorted us because obviously their interest was to know exactly we were taking, Honorable J. Banda. And so when we got into Midlands, unfortunately, a horde of state police officers in full riot gear came in, insisting that they wanted to move into, Minor Soko. The family, of course, insisted that they wanted him to obviously recuperate. The medical, staff at Midlands had insisted they wanted to put him in ICU. The police were in no, mood to compromise to that, simple request from the family. Surprisingly, even the Home Affairs Minister got to the hospital. I personally went to plead with him that there was no need to hurry, to move him to, Minor Soko. Why not wait until he's stable, for them to move him to Minor Soko? My question was, why are you in a hurry as if he was under arrest? Even if somebody was under arrest, you still can place police officers by the door if your fear is that he's going to run away.
That's right.
But Judge is not under arrest, okay? And if the family insists they want him to be in Minor Soko, in Midlands, why would you want to insist, even in the worst of situations? And I think that you'll be able to see the ugly scenes of how he was moved. He was moved like a common criminal. A common criminal. No regard for how he was feeling, the state in which he was. They was basically just picking him up like his life didn't matter. I never thought we could reach that level in our country, because JJ is not a criminal.
Don't you think the police reacted in that way because of what has been prevailing? There's been narratives that have been driven. There's been allegations that have been put across, Honorable. Others have gone to the extreme to allege that it is a state operation, such strong from leaders from different political organizations have made such allegations, and of course they have been refuted by the governance structures. Don't you think in a manner that they can, it was because of what has been prevailing? And also just this morning, the Minister of Home Affairs gave an update with regards to the same issue. And with him, he said, well, we have seen, PF member in Honorable Chishimba Kamwili being taken to Minasoko Military Hospital. We saw the incidents with retired General Let Ronnie Shikapwasha taken there. We saw the founding president of this country, Dr. KK, also being taken. Don't you think it was the state's mandate to see it that Honorable J. Banda be taken to Minasoko Military Hospital?
Let's speak to the narratives as to who could have been behind or who could be blamed.
Right.
Between you and me, society is wired in such a way that in the absence of information, people are going to speculate.
Right.
Okay? You realize that it took over 24 hours before a statement could be issued in regards to the whereabouts of JJ. Between you and me, it took me personally to confront, the Honorable Minister of Information to give an update. In my conversation with Honorable Mweto, I challenged him. JJ is not an ordinary person or member of the society.
Yes.
He's a senior member of society whose disappearance cannot take over 24 hours for a statement to be issued. And in particular, because the only statement before Honorable Jack Mwimbu's update yesterday, after I had interrogated, or rather insisted they needed to do that, was the initial statement from the police indicating that there's an issue of interest.
And they are investigating.
Yes. Now,
And
in any normal society on this earth, when a member of society in the ranks of an MP disappears, there would be timely updates. I think that we see this all over the world. There will be timely updates because you see, anxiety builds. JJ was expected yesterday to be in Petauke officiating a wedding. You can imagine the anguish of the people of Petauke learning that their member of parliament has disappeared. So I think that the onus lied on the state to fill the gap in terms of information. Now, in the absence of information, people will speculate. But I'll tell you about narratives. The biggest of narratives were created by UPND aligned media houses.
Right.
And not only are we talking about UPND aligned, we are talking about media houses whose ownership are individuals that are even working in State House. For instance, Koswe. I think it's public knowledge that Koswe is managed by individuals that we all know. Keith, you know. Okay?
Unless you need to
this is
provide
public knowledge.
evidence. All right.
That is public knowledge. You know Watchdog, the people that are behind Watchdog. Okay? So Koswe and Watchdog were running narratives. They're the ones actually who were suggesting that this was a staged arrangement.
Was it?
Yes.
What was it?
No, this is now. When you have a media house that is connected to the state or the ruling party, creating a narrative that this is a staged, automatically you think that is what the state thinks. Okay? And the pattern was consistent, in suggesting that this was staged. So we could see the clip, playing out. You understand, right? So, unfortunately, we have a scenario in our country where citizens are bullied by media houses that are connected to the state. It has become very fashionable in this country where
citizens are bullied.
Yes.
And in what way are they bullied?
Social media bully is very much alive in social media platforms like Watchdog and Koswe. You never see anything productive, particularly on people that are not aligned to the ruling party, right, on Koswe and UPND. If you see anything written about Binwell Mpundu on Koswe, it will always be propaganda. It will be always to malign such a people. Right. Now, these are media houses that are connected to our friends who are in charge of this government. Right. Now, this is the only country where a media house aligned to the state will be bullying citizens.
To get us back to the issue at hand, Honourable, in what state really is the Honourable Member of Parliament for Petauke in, especially that there were so many media houses that, brought out information that he was in a critical condition. Now, you having to say that he was being bundled up by the police and not treated rightly, would leave one to question really what is the state of the honorable member at this point in time.
We found JJ in serious pain.
If you say serious pain, what was he looking like? Was he breathing? Does he have external injuries? What is he looking like?
Well, if you look at his body, he had marks all over his back, like stripes, swollen stripes. He was seriously in pain. He could hardly move his body. He was in serious pain whenever you try and touch his feet, suggesting that he could have been tortured under, under the feet. So we found JJ in serious pain. When we got into Medlands, the medical personnel at Medland had insisted they needed to take him into ICU because his breathing was not
This
okay.
was after they ran a physical checkup?
Yes, in Kafue. Yes. So we then drove him into Lusaka in Medlands, and the officials there insisted he needed to be taken into ICU. We actually did plead. I was among the people that were pleading with the Commissioner of Police for Lusaka to allow him to be taken, into ICU to recuperate. When the Minister of Home Affairs arrived at Medland Hospital, I personally went to appeal to him. Unfortunately, they insisted, and they brought in a horde of police with guns. The way they were tossing around JJ's sisters, you can't like it.
Let me get your views with regards to how the Patriot Front have handled this issue. A national interest issue. Do you think there's been so much politicizing around the safety and the health of Honorable J. Banda?
The life of a politician will always be political. Now, we are having this situation of J.J. Banda, in the midst of a number of threats that have been issued by those lumpens from the UPND. I think that you are alive to videos where youths from Southern Province at a press conference where they specifically mentioned that they will sort out JJ, they will sort out Edgar Lungu, and anybody who had cases. Those videos are out in the open. We had, young people from Northwestern, led by the Northwestern Youth Chairman, Bruce Kanema, threatening violence on their enemies in the name of PF and anybody around Edgar Lungu. Now, when such threats are being aired or being broadcasted, being entertained, there's press conferences, and the police are mute, the next day, people are beginning to disappear. Honestly, how do you expect citizens to react? Especially that it will take 48 hours without any tangible clue as to the whereabouts of a senior member of society. Right. So look, like I did mention, human beings are wired in such a way that in the absence of information, they will make their own judgments. I took the whole day yesterday from morning. I spent quite a number of hours at Ibex, police station, wanting to just have a hint from the police as to what was happening with the investigations. I moved from Ibex with the family. We went to Central Police. I spoke to the divisional command, the provincial police chief. My plea was, please just give us something to go home to. And so when there is that vacuum, and then all we see, we are constantly being entertained to threats. Because remember, the UPND have told this country that there are no cadres. They've ended cadreism.
That's right.
But I think that you've seen, I'm not propagating here. You've seen videos of young people, youth leaders in the UPND, threatening citizens. I am one of those who has been threatened by that lumpen from the Copper Belt, the youth chairman for the UPND Copper Belt. When I spoke about toll gates, I think that also is in public media. Did you see any reaction from the police? Nothing.
Did you report?
Come on. And now, this is where it is
As
very dangerous.
As a citizen,
now, I'll tell you
putting
this.
off your heart as a representative,
I'll tell you this.
Do you take steps?
The police don't instill confidence in the citizens to report, because every other time citizens have reported, for as long as they don't subscribe to the UPND, the police have played a deaf ear.
But we've heard this before. We've heard this said even of the past, regime, to say that the police were not acting in order. Really, what is the cause for this rhetorical question ever giving a rise to? The issue to do with the police having to work mainly in favor of those that are in power.
We cannot continue to live in the past. Unfortunately, we are dealing with the UPND who had promised heaven on earth. I think that you are all alive to remember that the UPND had promised that they would do something different. I think it's on that premise that the UPND got voted for.
Close to Canaan?
Well, they're very far away from that. I have had citizens speaking to me, telling me that they would rather go back to Egypt than the path we are on. I think that the truth of the matter is that the UPND are taking us on a very dangerous path, particularly that they've decided to do exactly the opposite of what they had promised. Democratic space is shrinking. 3 years almost, no single political rally. The Kadarism they spoke about, I think you are all alive to know that it is worse now. If you have young people in the name of Bruce Kanema telling the former head of state, a man almost the age of his grandfather, that they are going to circumcise that man, honestly speaking, can you say that?
But we've heard of such sentiments come through from different
there's never
young politicians.
There's never been, and I can challenge you.
I mean, this has happened before under the Patriotic Front.
There's never been. I have been a PF myself.
Leaders as well.
I've been a PF myself as a youth leader in the PF. There's never
been PF or you are PF?
I was.
You are
I'm
PF.
independent now.
Yes,
but I can tell you, I was PF.
Okay.
I used to be in the youth party structures of the PF. There was never, and I can challenge anyone in this country, where young people in the PF would hold a press conference and denounce and call and insult
not that they would hold the press conference.
even HH as an opposition leader then,
right,
to an extent of hauling out insults in the name of we are going to circumcise him.
But others would say, speaking of the Patriotic Front, others would say that the Patriotic Front, as well as the UPND, are just Siamese twins, especially looking at their conduct. What do you make of such assertions?
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm not a spokesperson of PF. If you ask me that question then, I would answer affirmatively. But I'll tell you now.
Speaking now as an independent
seem to be aligned with the Patriot Front, Honorable.
Look, I come from the PF. I have a soft spot towards the PF. That's the truth. Okay? But the fact is, even when you citizens talk about violence,
right,
the truth of the matter, black and white, the UPND is on record the most violent party.
And yet
we've not forgotten. Let me give you an account.
And yet we have testimonials of members from the UPND that say that they were scorched by the
I can give you an account. The worst form of violence in this country.
That they had tear gas, placed in places that I'd rather not mention on national television.
Sir, maybe let's distinguish between the police actions and the party functionaries' actions.
Please,
right.
Go ahead.
If we talk about violence, the worst violence to have ever been recorded in this country was in the by-election of Mufumbwe, when the UPND crashed with the MMD. The UPND committed the worst atrocities in violence then. You know of the Mapatizia formula, okay? You know the violence in the name of the Mapatizia formula under the UPND. You know that the UPND killed a man in cold blood called Kungo in the Northwestern Province. That is on record. So when you talk about, UPND being a holy, congregation of angels, far from it. In fact, when you compare the two, PF and UPND, of course, PF were excited. They were in the markets. They were flashing money here and there. They were intimidating. They never came close, and they will never come close to the violence that have been committed by the UPND, and anybody can challenge me on that.
Let me bring you to yesterday when we had a joint press briefing by Patriot Front members of Parliament. I didn't see you there. I'm not sure if you were there. Yes. What do you make of statements that were made from this national issue talking about the disappearance then of Honorable J. Banda? We saw very, very strong remarks that are coming out from, Lumezi Member of Parliament in Honorable Munir Zulu, who's been taken by the police. Maybe you might as well give us an update on that one. We saw Mfuwe Member of Parliament, Honorable Maureen Mabonga, as well issuing, which the citizens are reacting to as being tribal. How did it come out from a disappearance of a Member of Parliament to getting to, tribal? Are these members of Parliament inciting violence in the country?
I'll tell you this. I am a young politician myself who does not want to get involved in tribal conversations, even though I believe myself that there's a need for us to have a national conversation over this matter.
Right.
There's need for us to have a serious conversation.
What kind of a conversation?
Around all these issues. Because I'll tell you today, there are a number of Zambians today who are complaining of being maligned out of public institutions on the basis of regionalism or tribe. That is fact. It is happening. So when such things are being reported, there's need for us to address this issue with soberness. Now, I don't know, like I said, I don't ever want to entertain these tribal conversations, but I think, like I did say, the UPND is taking us on a very dangerous path. Particularly, and I want to say this again, where you have a horde of young people in a country where the leaders have pronounced there are no cadres, sitting and insulting and making statements that Southern Province is a no-go area. Because if you look at the statement by Munir, it's basically saying, Mr. President, if your youths are saying Southern Province is no-go area, then we are also going to say that Eastern Province is no. Is there a difference in that statement?
Are you justifying that?
No. Like I said, I don't want to be part of such conversations, but I can tell you what is now agitating people to react is because of what is happening. I'll tell you, for instance, I made a statement myself yesterday at a press conference where I actually said, if the police are not prepared to protect us, the citizens, unfortunately, we are going to protect ourselves with equal measure.
What do you mean? Are you going to take the law into your own hands?
If the police are not prepared to protect you, Keith.
You are ready to break the Constitution.
Keith, if the police is not prepared to protect you, what would you do? Would you sit and be beaten? No, sir. I am not such a person. So look, when citizens...
obviously, you would not want to sit back. No one
would do that, my brother. No one.
I think it's very important for us to put this into perspective. Would that mean then, now getting back to what Keith asked you, would that mean that it would be okay for you to go outside of the law?
The law dictates...
You protecting yourself?
Protecting yourself is not against the law. In law, as a student of law myself, there's self-defense. And in self-defense, the defense you put up must be in equal measure with the aggression. So if you come with a knife, the law provides that I can actually defend myself with a knife and I walk away. That's the law. And I can challenge any lawyer to challenge me on that. So when the police is not prepared to do their job, which they are mandated to do, that is vis-a-vis protecting citizens, citizens are going to protect themselves. Okay? I have been threatened. My family is worried because there are threats. There's a bounty on my head. The police have not acted. Like you asked me, have you reported? I don't have to report. Every time there's a threat on a life of citizens, the police, whether there is a report or not, have a duty, sir. They have a duty to act. They have a duty. Such lame excuses as there's no report can never be entertained by any normal thinking society, Zambians. There is a threat on my life. Have you heard anybody being summoned? There were threats on the life of JJ. Did you hear anybody being summoned for those threats? Didn't you see those people threatening JJ? So when you see these being done and the police are mute, the state is quiet, the ruling party leadership is quiet. What do you want people to do?
What did you expect of the police? Is it to continually inform us on what proceedings they're taking up? Because I'm meant to believe that obviously there should be a process and procedure that the police go by. especially where investigations are concerned. It's not everything that we should be privy to.
So after I insisted with the Minister of Information yesterday that they needed to update the country, so why did they update? If you say they have procedures and what, why did they then update? Because even in the update, they gave nothing. But you see, at least they spoke to the country. That is what we all demanded. Just speak to us. Even if you have nothing, just assure us that you are working on it. And I think that's what Jack Mimbu did. Basically to just assure us, even if he had nothing.
Well,
How would you rate
sorry.
Sure.
Are you sensationalizing this whole issue? Because according to the statement by Honorable Jack Mimbu, he says Honorable Banda is stable, able to speak, has no serious injuries, and you are saying JJ has serious injuries, suggesting torture. Who is saying the truth about the state of JJ between Honorable Mpundu or Honorable Jack Mimbu?
I have seen JJ myself.
Maybe he has. You mentioned Honorable Mimbu also came.
And I can tell you I was not alone, and I'm not hallucinating. I found JJ. JJ was painfully crying.
Blowing this out of proportion.
Look, what do we benefit in?
Who's saying the truth?
What do we benefit in blowing this thing? I can ask you that. What do we benefit in blowing this thing? This is the life of an individual concerned, involved here. An individual is found abandoned. You picking up is complaining at every touch you make on his body. Would you just be interested in seeing cuts, wounds on his body? Don't you know there are internal injuries? Okay, I am here narrating that JJ has got those stripes in his back. Is Mimbu confirming that he hasn't seen those stripes in the back of JJ?
Do you then suggest the Honorable Minister is lying?
What is he talking about? What is he talking about?
Is he lying?
Maybe he's very selective. But Jackie is in the habit of going against the norms. I'll tell you, for instance, but Jackie continued to insist, on people who are wanting to hold press conferences or rallies to always have to wait until the police clears them. When Laz, to which Laz Jackie belongs to, has categorically stated there is no requirement for citizens to get that permit. So are you not seeing that Jackie is in that habit?
Let's put it this way. You obviously getting to the August House, you put an oath there. So is the Minister of Home Affairs. When he was given that mandate to serve the Zambians in that capacity, he swore to the Constitution. What do you think he will benefit from lying?
Well, I don't know whether Bajaki is lying or whether I am lying.
You don't know that?
If Bajaki says there are no serious...
There are no serious injuries. He's stable and he's able to speak.
Okay.
Was he able to speak when you found him? Besides the cries that he was giving?
Let me ask you. If somebody has their hand amputated, is that a serious injury?
It is.
It is.
Don't such people speak?
They do.
So do we assume that somebody does not have serious injuries on the basis that they're able to speak?
No, we obviously do not. But
okay. If I'm found in an accident, and my rib is broken, but there is no wound, would you say that I don't have serious injuries? Does serious injury only suffice when there's a cut on your body?
Have you seen any report from the medical personnel?
Bakalamba.
Or maybe Honorable Mimbu has first-hand report at Minnesota.
Bakalamba, even when that report was being written by the officials in Kafue, I was there. We were seeing JJ was being taken in the machines to be, the X-rays. We were there, but Jack was not there.
You said that it was suggested that he be placed in ICU.
Yes.
At the time that you were at Medland over in
Yes.
Kafue.
Yes.
What necessitated that?
By the way, and that's a very important question. Who gets to be placed in an ICU? Because it was a medical. It's not Binwell Mpundu can suggest that place him in an ICU. Have you ever heard of such? Even if we are excited as politicians, have you ever heard that a politician would insist that put him in an ICU? It was the officers or the medical officials at Medlands who insisted we needed to put him in ICU because his breathing doesn't sound or doesn't look stable. So if somebody is going to be placed in ICU and somebody senior says he doesn't have serious injuries, who would you believe? The medical or by Jack Mwimbu?
But Jack Mumbu now never find information. Who hospital?
Okay, you see, these are simple things, colleagues.
Right.
Of course, as politicians, we can be sensational at some time, but we're talking about the life of an individual here.
That's right.
And I think that you, colleagues, your profession dictates that you can read, you can flip the page even when something is written on the other side to see what is written underneath. The medical personnel are insisting, let's take him to ICU. Okay? Then you bring a horde of policemen in riot gear to challenge and know if So who is lying?
We have seen high-profile individuals in this country being taken to Minor Soko.
So the fact that somebody went to Minor Soko doesn't justify why you should defy medical personnel who insist that you must take this person into ICU to stabilize him before you move him. The family was not resisting the movement of JJ. They were basically saying, the medical personnel, if you even ask Emmanuel Mwamba, he was there, pleading. Colleagues, we are wasting time. The medical personnel are insisting, let's take him to ICU. If you want him, even wait by the door, or give him some hours. When he's okay, you can reassess, because they even brought a medical personnel from ZNS.
Yes.
We said, okay, let the two go in there, and when everything seems okay, take him.
In your view,
Is that so much to ask?
In your view, really, what can you rate as the performance of the police, especially looking at how they've handled this particular situation? But also, we've gotten to see other things develop, such as the former head of state as well, and having quite a number of people complaining about how he's been treated. What would be your comment on that?
JJ's disappearance is reported at IBEX. Friends, family, sympathizers all rush to IBEX to obviously get answers. In the thick of things, police officers unleashes tear gases and fires shots at people. You know, you've seen the reports that some individuals have wounds from shooting from IBEX. The police, there is a vehicle reportedly abandoned. The police goes to the scene, immediately drives the car off the scene. The vehicle is parked, by the station, without the family knowing. The car is driven to a place we don't know about.
Because you're not a police officer, Honorable.
We are not.
Yes.
But you see, police officers don't operate in space. The actions and activities of the police officers are known. Yes, we are not experts, but we can put two dots together to make a line. Some things, we can challenge them. For instance, if a medical personnel insists that this must go into ICU, it is not justified just because you are police to insist otherwise. We have seen criminals tied to a bed but still receiving medical attention. So even if JJ was a criminal, because that's what we want to think they are treating him like, they could still go and cuff him by the bed if they think he can run away, but still allow him to get medical advice, or rather attention, as advised by the medical personnel. So when you see all these things happening, you can make a conclusion over the conduct of the police.
Let's look at yesterday's remarks, obviously. And I was ticked because this is what we're getting. A number of you members of parliament, independent and those coming from the Patriotic Front, had made statements. What's stopping this? Again, I refer back to Lumezi MP, who's now been taken up by the police. It's been said, an old saying to say, two wrongs cannot make a right. There have been threats coming from the UPND youths, as you are saying. But do you think, as a member of parliament, as a leader, Hon Munir Zulu needed to react like that, needed to respond through that way? And what do you make of, or what transpired when it was being picked up? I want to believe you were together this morning.
I still want to say what I've said before.
Right.
The UPND are taking us on a path of destruction. It is not okay to allow some individuals to be committing atrocities, you ignore. When others do the same, you are very quick. I'll tell you, for instance, this same famous hate speech. Munir Zulu is in courts for hate speech.
Yes.
Because he said the people of Lumezi are more clever than the people of Bwengwa. The UPND Secretary General called the Archbishop of Lusaka a Lucifer. What is more hateful between the two? The Minister of Education went into Luapula and called we, the people of Luapula, to be suffering from mental poverty.
It's an active case. It's been reported.
Sir, that's a joke. There's no attention. Okay? So that is why we are saying that if a government is siding or is showing impartiality, it is room or it's a recipe for anarchy. Because then citizens will feel that it is a waste of time to think that these people can protect you. In the end, you see people taking the law in their hands. I am not justifying any statement. I don't subscribe to conversations around tribe, because I've seen what has happened to issues of tribalism in other countries. I would not want this country to go that direction. But you see, we cannot shy away from talking about these red flags, because these small things put together can cause a bigger thing, which we can prevent by being honest about these things.
Right. What has left so many Zambians, I think, in a confused state, because there's just so much that has happened in the last 14 days, I think, when former President Edgar Lungu, together with other opposition political party leaders, were at Dunamis Church, where he had issued that statement, which so many people are even reacting to now, and others are referring to this to maybe even have spillover effect to what is happening now in terms of how the government, the UPND as a party in government, and you in the opposition are reacting. Don't you think this is all stemming out of what very divisive and dangerous statement that the former head of state had issued? Do you think he's in a state to be able to put this country on track with how he's handling these matters as a former head of state?
I'm not a spokesperson for the former president, Mr. Edgar Lungu. But I can tell you, what's good for the goose must be good for the gander. We must be very careful with what we do today,
right,
because it can also be done by the next person the next day. This, proclamation or announcements or calls, let's go for early elections, have not started today. President HH in the opposition used to make those statements. So you cannot have people opening 25 dockets because Edgar Lungu has made those statements. It's laughable. It's actually laughable that the whole police would actually open 25 dockets on a statement saying there will be early elections. You understand? Now, the two are wrong.
Yes.
HH was wrong. Then ECO is wrong now. Okay, because elections are held periodically.
And the Constitution dictates in circumstances we should hold elections.
Okay, so unfortunately, the two cannot condemn each other. And HH should be the last person to condemn ECL for such statements that he made himself. So let's call it square but insist that the two must take us on the right path by acting responsibly. The two must act responsibly. We've seen them trade words in public. The head of state would go and insult in public. What do you expect the other person would also do? The same way. We don't expect also ECO to also be using the same language. These are senior men. So we should be looking up to them. So I am not going to condemn one and justify another. I am just basically going to say we expect the best from the two. Because remember, like they say, when two elephants are fighting, it's the grass that suffers. You've seen that it's us, the young people, who have to suffer the most because of these seemingly two giants fighting. So we can only go to our parents to say, please, And I've done that several times.
You have?
I have made calls that the two must sit down. I think even if you check my social media platform, not more than 2 weeks ago, I still did make a call that there was need for, number one, President HH to treat the issue of ECL carefully when there were reports that they were going to pick him up. I actually said the excitement of the police, President HH needs to watch out because, the country is volatile. I have demonstrated as a young leader before.
Right.
My competitor in Nkana, we were at loggerheads, serious loggerheads. Do you know what I did when I won the elections? I reached out. Today, me and Alexander Chitemi, who was my fierce competitor, we laugh, we joke, we are friends, right. Even if we are not best friends. But you see, that atmosphere of animosity, we have killed it by what? Me with power reaching out. Brother, let's hold hands. Let's be brothers. I don't mind even if you want to compete with me again. The two can also demonstrate statesmanship.
But they'll argue on that one, Honorable. According to what's on record, he has been invited before to state functions, and he shuns them.
You can't invite somebody, meanwhile yesterday you were insulting him. Come on. Come on. Let's be realistic.
Right. Getting back to, where our discussion this morning was premised off of the disappearance of Petroke Member of Parliament in Emmanuel J. Banda. Now he's been discovered. What is the atmosphere like in as far as where he's gone to now, Minor Soko? And how much access, does his family have to him?
There's serious apprehension, I can tell you, from the family members, because JJ has been moved to Minor Soko against their will. I think that you've seen the video where they almost were fighting that decision. They have the right. Yes, JJ could be the state asset, but he has a family. Ultimately, the family has a huge say over his life. They have insisted. We want him to be here. Look, if there's anything we politicians don't like, is being in the hands of somebody you think may harm you. Okay? You understand that word? Yes. Because if I am an opposition, I have every reason to think that the ruling party can harm me at any time. So I am never comfortable being in the hands of those I feel can harm me. So that if the family insists we want him here, and you who they feel you can harm them, them to be in your hands. Come on, it's logic. It's logic and it's not misplaced. The family simply wants the best for their child. There must be a compromise. There must always be a compromise. Any reasonable thinking Zambian must see a need for compromise, particularly in the instance of this morning. JJ was not stable, was not okay. There was need for the police to compromise. Okay, allow time so that at least he is stable, then take him where you want him to go.
But what do you think, let me pick out your brains, would this be a benefit, would this ordeal be a benefit for political mileage on both sides, be it PF or UPND?
It would be foolish for either PF or UPND to gain political mileage over a life of an individual. All right. That's all I can tell you. Okay. Whoever may want to gain political mileage over the life of a citizen in the name of a member of parliament would be too foolish to even, imagine. Too foolish. So if the UPND were thinking of gaining mileage out of this, from the narratives they are creating on their social media platforms, any such a person does not deserve to have life. They are not normal. They don't need to be on this earth. Equally, if there is a member of the PF who had wanted to gain mileage over JJ's life, they too do not deserve to have life. They are not normal. They are not human beings.
In the worst case, okay, for now we have the benefit of doubt he's stable. In the worst case, anything happened to Honorable J. Banda when the police had insisted for him to be moved to where the family had preferred, family and friends had preferred to be treated from, to Minor Soko. What would you make out of anything? How would you react as a close associate or even, how would you react?
Well, if the family insists they want to go this direction, and for security reason, you tell them don't go in that direction, and they meet a fate, obviously nobody would be blamed because they would have insisted. The role of the police in many instances is to be able to offer expert advice. Guys, we feel that the best way is to have him here. But if you insist, at your own peril. And if anything happens, then you say, guys, it's on record. We insisted we take him there.
Yes.
They refused. But can you now imagine the opposite side of your question?
Yeah.
Anything bad happened to JJ at Mainasoko. Now imagine when the family was almost fighting the decision. Can you now imagine if anything bad happened there?
At least by now we know the Zambia police is in charge. Before a comprehensive report is issued to the Zambians, what next from here?
For me, I just want to ask the Zambians to continue praying for JJ Banda, particularly that we don't know whether he's fine, because sometimes you look at the body, not knowing that people could have, people who do such criminalities, they are not, they're very intelligent people. They can hammer you, puncture your ribs, and people look at you and think that you are okay. Just like an accident. We can look at you for surviving from an accident. That is why we insist on taking, people being taken for examinations, x-rays and all that, because the body may look okay, but internally somebody is injured. So for me, what I can do is to ask the Zambian people to pray for JJ, especially that JJ now is, back alive, but also to appeal for soberness from particularly the state. We want them to exercise serious soberness. What I saw the police doing this morning is unthinkable, particularly that they were acting, I want to suggest, under the instruction of the Home Affairs Minister, who was actually there at the hospital. They must, I think, act normal, because that's what we want. The state has a responsibility to set this country on the right path, where citizens can express themselves without being scared of being abducted or threatened or being manhandled, as the threats have been on our lives, some of us who have been speaking out. So we must go back to a Zambia, 60 years plus, or rather 60 years of independence. Have you ever heard an MP being abducted? Never. But in the recent past, a judge is abducted, thrown into Zambezi River. An MP is abducted. 48 hours, that's when he appears. Strange things.
And soberness, Honorable, how do you make of, or what is your call as well to individuals that may want to sympathize with Honorable J. Banda? We have seen in the recent past, like it happened where some tear gas canisters were also, put out. A whole crowd of people gathering up at police station and possibly causing confusion. What is your call to such individuals? Maybe some exceptions with fellow parliamentarians to go and seek for clarity on such information. But what do you make of the behavior from some cadres to just gang up in huge numbers? Don't you think they need to exercise some patience, wait for the way forward from the Zambia police, unlike trying to now cause confusion in this tense moment? What is your call to that? How should these cadres behave? How should people that may want to offer solidarity, carry themselves?
It's unimaginable to think that any sane person would think that you arrest JJ or Binwell, you will have one person visiting him. It's unimaginable. When you arrest JJ, when Binwell disappears, when JJ disappears, just know that people, anxieties are going to build. And when people's anxieties are going to build, they will come asking for answers. It's not strange to see people who are sympathetic to an individual going to ask for answers. The question is, what is the reaction of the police? Of course, I want to say there's need for the police to sober up, just
Yes.
as there's need for all of us as politicians to sober up. But I think the greater responsibility is on the part of the police, because the tear gassing the other day was uncalled for. Uncalled for. There was no report of any violent incidents at Ibex police station. To have police officers unleashing those, tear gas canisters and firing bullets at individuals is very sad. Very, very sad. To see police officers acting in the manner they've acted this morning at Maryland Police Medical Facility is unthinkable. I never thought in my years as a young man I could see these things happening. I never imagined. I never imagined young politicians would be abducted in Zambia. These are stories we hear of in other countries, not in Zambia. These are beginning to happen here. I never imagined we will have young politicians' houses being torched to ashes, bent down to ashes. Of course, people want to play smart. It started by, election.
But Honorable, I think...
we are not stupid.
I think that's where Zambians get to be left, but also to wonder when leaders, national leaders like you, really, in the instance that you're referring to, the inferno of the house of the residents of Mambilima MP in Honorable Jean Chisenga. The police, could you also, as leaders, lead the way in, putting trust in the police? If you say, or you put a different narrative as to what led to that fire or what transpired there, what will be the citizens left to think?
Trust is earned. It's not automatic. It's earned. If the police wants us to trust them with our lives, they must earn it. They must start acting right. If somebody threatens my life, if the police wants to earn my trust, they must go and pick him up and question him or interrogate him for threatening my life. If they remain quiet, how do they earn my trust? Okay? So, trust is earned. Makalamba, trust is earned. And I want to state that in no uncertain terms, if the police, if the state wants the citizens to have confidence, to have trust in them,
yes,
please, it is not too late. They can start to act right. To act right means they must be impartial. They must act with speed on matters of urgency. If there's a report of an abduction,
yes,
speed is of essence. Even visiting family house, the house of
the affected family.
The affected. Mwatandala, mwaikala ba mweba. Please don't worry. Today bomba. Do you lose anything? No, you don't.
Speaking of speed, it seems as though the police were quite acting out of haste when they got to, get to evacuating the honorable
than the investigation.
Right. What would be your sentiment?
That is our worry. That is our worry. When you spend 24 hours man, but then when we find umuntu fwebene, ero mwaisa to want to show concern. That's why we are worrying.
But listen, Honorable, let's just maybe go back a little bit. You are a very good friend, and I think I asked this, we talked, people get to see you at Parliament Motel, Parliament buildings, and away from parliamentary duties, you share some kind of relationship, having fun, posting photos on social media, and people have come to get to know of what kind of a relationship you share with Honorable J. Banda. Does he have any enemies outside political circles? Or maybe some people have suggested that Honorable J. Banda had a couple of enemies inside and outside the civil service. And in the civil service, he has been accused of beating up police officers. In the past, around 2020, that case obviously went into a non. Does he have opponents, enemies?
You must come close to people that have known JJ,
right,
or must come close to JJ himself to know how good a gentleman JJ is. He's a gentle soul. Okay?
A gentle soul, you say, and yet this is on record that he actually went to, police headquarters.
Yes. Beating police officers, a gentle soul.
Within state headquarters.
I can bet my life. that is propaganda. JJ did not beat any police officer. We hear, some excited individuals are trying to open up such cases. JJ did not beat any. Even in the PF, we had our own internal fights. That report of JJ beating police officers was just an internal fight. He would have been rotting in jail. My police officer per station. We must be joking. So there's no such thing as JJ beat up a police officer. Of course, I can tell you that we are human beings. Mm-hmm. I have done myself things that I look back and I'm not proud of. Mm-hmm. He could have done things that he could not be proud of. But look, in life we are not measured by the mistake we made yesterday. If I made a mistake yesterday, there's a room for me to become a better person. The JJ I know is a gentle soul, is a human being, a peace-loving Zambian, a cheerful giver, everything. A jovial guy, JJ, carefree guy, a very nice guy. It is unthinkable to suggest that JJ has enemies. JJ's business is very well known. Senda for transporter, senda fiamataba, fertilizer. He doesn't have complicated businesses where you think that he could have picked up enemies. JJ is just a good guy.
Right. Do you then suggest, okay, there's a saying, show me your friends, I'll tell you who you are. Are you just speaking of what you are as Honorable, looking at how you share a relationship with Honorable J. Banda? In the past, with what I cited, that incident of beating up police officers at a police station, urinating in a journalist, I don't know what your relationship has been with the other, media personnel. I'll not speak on my behalf, other media personnel. There are incidences or reports that he committed, inhumane acts, urinating in the mouth of a journalist. Is this the kind of a person you would want to defend or befriend or be associated with?
Even Jesus befriended the worst of, criminals who later changed.
Right.
Paul, the Bible teaches us, killed Christians. Mm-hmm. When he later changed, he was the best of the disciples. And so, I've done a lot of things myself that I'm not proud of. Would you fail to associate with me because of what I did in the past? Wouldn't you be concentrating on what I am today? If JJ did, commit a crime in the past, would that be a reason for me not to want to associate with him? Don't you think by association we build each other? Haven't you seen me and JJ building each other? Haven't you seen us dress nicely in suits, look alike?
Almost say that.
So don't you see that we actually are building each other? Don't you see JJ now speaking and kasungwa kasumasana? It's building each other. We complement each other. Don't you see me picking up some wisdom, from my brother from the East? Right. So unfortunately, for me, I'm a kind of a guy who concentrates more on your strength, right, not on your weaknesses, because everybody has got sins. Everyone. There's no one who doesn't have sin. All of us would be condemned. There is no one who is perfect. So who are you to pick up a stone and cast, on somebody just because we haven't seen your closet? There is so much in our closets. Okay? So look, I'm not saying or justifying any wrongs that could have been committed. All I'm saying is that we are all human beings who can err. Right. Not that tomorrow Bino will not make a mistake. I will still make a mistake because on our life journey, we are bound to make mistakes. Sometimes deliberately, sometimes without, intending to. Right. So any such a person who would cast a first stone on JJ, let them raise their hand if they've not committed any sin.
But obviously, your concluding remarks to, first of all, you people in the political arena, because we have seen there's just so much tension that is disadvantaging the mere citizens. What is your word to the Zambian people, and what is your word to your fellow parliamentarians in how we're dealing with these matters? Not just this matter at hand, but other matters that may arise in the near future.
First of all, I want to start by thanking the Zambian people who stood in solidarity with JJ during that time when we didn't know his whereabouts. I think that the love that outpoured from different sections of society was amazing. I shudder to imagine why certain people would want to rejoice in the disappearance of JJ and create innuendos and propagandas. That is not Zambian, it's not human. I think that when a member of society in the like of an MP disappears, it's not political. I would have loved to see UPND members, standing in solidarity, going to the police to check on how he is doing. I saw some members, I think that a member of parliament for Kankoyo did write something on his post where he was wishing, safety of JJ. I think that is what, humanity entails.
Yeah.
Humanity entails that you cannot rejoice in somebody going through pain. My appeal to politicians is that the prosperity of this country squarely lies in our hands. What we choose to do with our times, with our opportunities now, will define what sort of a country we may be. We can choose to continue antagonizing each other. Remember, no country can develop with such. My appeal ultimately is on our two senior statesmen, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, and former President HH. I am of the view that the two needs to find a way to start talking to each other. Because the tension that is brewing up in this country is not good for the well-being of this country, largely because of those who subscribe or who support this man versus those who support that man.
Right.
Unfortunately, the two could even be safe. We, the supporters, could actually be affected, which is why we would want the two to show leadership by having a sit down. If me, a young man, has demonstrated that by sitting down with somebody who used to be, my worst of friends or enemies, what about our senior statesmen? My appeal to young people across the country: let us never get enticed or pushed to involve ourselves in politics of violence, character assassination. The young people hold the future of this country.
Right.
What we do with our time now in the political space defines what Zambia is going to be. May God bless our country.
Honorable, thank you so very much for having appeared.
Thank you very much.
For the live update this morning.
Thank you very much.
Landy, we need to get going.
Exactly.
That was a live update on the issues, across the country.
That's right, where, of course, a member of parliament for Petauke has been discovered. Very fortunate that he's alive. There was a lot going on, not so much information being churned out about really what the police investigations were. But now it's been discovered that he's okay, and he's been rushed to Minor Soko, where he's going to be receiving medical attention. So we'll continue to update you and keep you abreast of what exactly is transpiring. But thank you to all of you that have been in tune with us this morning, and we really have had a very wide and broad perspective in as far as the political landscape is concerned. Joining us was, of course, Nkana Member of Parliament in Honorable Binwell Mpundu. My name is Landelani Banda.
And of course, I'm Keith Mwemba, and on behalf of our guests and the entire production here at Movie, until next time, please keep watching your channel of choice, Movie Television. Good morning.